This is a song for those who lost their hope a long time ago. I know someday that you will find it somehow.
January 12th, 2010, 4:53 p.m. Over 500,000 people feared death. Millions became homeless, many in complete rubble. Corpses were stacked in the streets. The death toll estimate was around 200,000. 300,000 were injured. 1.5 million people were initially displaced. Collapsed buildings, defining the landscape of the disaster area, came as a consequence of Haiti's lack of building codes. Without adequate reinforcement, the buildings disintegrated under the force of the quake, killing or trapping many. In the capital, the cathedral and the National Palace were both heavily damaged, as were the United Nations headquarters, National Penitentiary, and Parliament building. The city, already beset by a strained and inadequate infrastructure, and still recovering from 2 tropical storms and 2 hurricanes of August through September 2008, was ill-equipped to deal with such a disaster. Other affected areas of the country, faced with comparable weaknesses, were sporadically to other urban areas. Operations to rescue those trapped under the wreckage, which had freed over 100 people, had mostly ceased 2 weeks into the crisis, as hope that anyone could have survived for the length of time without food or water began to fade. There were still occasional recoveries of people who had managed to survive confinement for 2 weeks by rationing the supplies available to them.
In addition to the effects on Haiti's population and homes, the ecology of the region was also vastly affected. Things like the water supply and air quality to their farmland. The sanitation of the country's water and their food supply was worsened by the earthquake. The worsened water supply caused diseases like dysentery, malaria, and drug-resistant tuberculosis to run rampant. Part of this is due to deforestation, which causes soil erosion. Soil erosions pollute the water and ruin the farmland. The earthquake destroyed many poorly constructed and dirty buildings. In the epicenter, 60 to 80% of the buildings and structures had severe damage. There were no systems in place to dispose of the potentially hazardous material that was left on the roadsides. Within the first year after the disaster, only 5% of the cleaning had been accomplished. It will still take Haiti some time to fully recover, even with the hope of the many relief efforts.